Okay, so after the last video, I made a couple adjustments, found some more animations, got something. It's not perfect, but this is what I'm going to go with for a walk for now. And the idle animation is still like it was, just messing around. I found something, one of those happy little accidents. Thought that kind of looked like skiing, so maybe there'll be a reason to make some skis and ski pole props for our character and have him go across an Arctic environment. But I thought it looked like skiing, so I figured I'd save that. No need to just delete it. And then this, one of the failed walk attempts, I thought it looked like he was moonwalking. It's like, oh, well, I don't know if I'll use that or not, but might as well save a character moonwalking just in case. A victory dance or something sort of scene. Never know when that stuff might come in useful, so. But I think I'm going to go with this walk. I exported that, and I resized everything to 64 by 128, our original size. And I thought I'd look at this. So here's the original, the one exported from the last video, the 500 by 739. We can see it's 234 kilobytes. So it's 64 by 128. If we go in and overwrite that, which I forgot to do in the last video, make sure you change the name for each animation. Otherwise, it's just going to overwrite stuff. But if we go ahead and overwrite that original idle animation here, whoops, I better switch to the idle animation, which is still like it was. If we go in here and overwrite that, render animation, well, for one at this size, it goes a whole lot quicker. I just made some basic adjustments along the way. And if we look at the file size now, it's 8.49 kilobytes. And there's not any details to lose in this case, so it doesn't really make any difference. There's not really any details there. It's just a big blob of color. So it came through fine. And we have a much smaller size. So now we have our character idling and walk animations. So let's go put this into that 2D test game. And just to check this, so from where test2.py is located, we need to go into an image folder and then a sprite folder to get to our character sprite. And I'm just going to use this first idle animation as the default one. So go to rename, Control C to copy that, then click off of it and change it here. So images /sprite /paste. So that'll be our default animation. Let's give this a run and see what that looks like. Python test1.py. Uh-oh. Oh, it was test2. Python test2 for 2D.py. Oh, it's a ping file. .ping. All I did was copy the name. And just the standard debugging process. There we go. So there's our character, new character image, and the still image looks good. So let's get the animations in here, which should be easy to set by just a single boolean because we're either moving or we're not at this point. So I'll create a variable for the player called isWalking and start it off at false. Then down here for our keyboard controls, isWalking will change to true if we push the A key. If we push the S key, isWalking will change to false. Oh, whoops. Change to true because that is a movement. All of these are going to change to true. Push the D key and isWalking will switch over to true. And if we push the W key, isWalking will become true. And anything else, we should be able to so when would be a good place to set that back to false? Well, I guess the best place to switch it back to false would be on a key up event. So if we copy this, so after we check the key down, we can check and see if there was a key released. So a key up. And, well, then we can really just copy this. Control copy, Control paste, and if the key is released, well, we don't have to call any of these, so I'll erase those real quick. There's not any movement that's going to happen if we're releasing the key, but our true here will become false. And when the key is let up, we're no longer moving, so we'll switch it to false, and as soon as another key is pressed, it should come back to true. So now all we have to do is switch the animation when that, based off that boolean. If is walking is true, we'll show the walking animation, and if is walking is false, we'll show the idle animation. So we can do that right here in our player object. That gets called every single frame of the game. So I'll set up an if statement to check that variable. So if is walking, so if we are walking, well, then we just need to change the sprite image accordingly. So I'll copy that line, but there is a slight issue. There's 4 digits and only 4 digits, so we do need to split that up to decide if we're in the first 10 frames or not. So I'm going to create a counter variable, start it at 0, and then every loop through our game, I'll go ahead and increment that counter. Counter increments by 1. So then after we check is walking, we can just see where that's at. We have a 20 frame animation, so frame can be our counter mod 20, which gives us something from 0 to 19, so plus 1, and now we have a number for that frame. And we just need to see if it's that, well, then I'm going to leave a space because we have to do something. Then we'll just copy this line. Oh, is word wrap on? Turn that off. That seems odd in code. So that, except we don't want necessarily picture 1, so I'm going to take that 1 away, and in the middle there, use that frame variable. So character idle, whatever frame we're on, which will always be something between 1 and 20. We do need an if statement though, because there's only 4 digits, so we'll need to check if frame is less than 10, then we'll use that one. Oh, this is not walking. I should put not is walking because we have the idle animation. Then I'll copy this, Control copy, and if our frame is bigger than 10, then we want to do the same thing, except we don't need one of these zeros. So let's give this a test and see if our character just sits there, stands there and idle. Runs through the idle animation. Uh-oh. Player sprite reference before assignment. Oh, local variable. So I need to use the global player sprite here. Since we're changing it, it does need to be the global version. Let's give that another try. Standard debugging. Did I spell it wrong? I sure did. Player sprite. 3rd time's a charm. There we go. And he just sits there and runs through the idle animation. It's 10 frames, so if it's between 1 and 9, we use the first branch of our if structure. Otherwise, we use the second part. And our else will be exactly the same, except I called that character underscore walk underscore the numbers Blender assigned to each image. So we'll copy all of this. Control C to copy. Come down and do the else for the, so that if walk is walking is true, then we'll do all this, only it's not the idle animation, it's the walk animation. So let's give that a try. Idling and walking. So not the best animation, but it's not a still image walking around here now. And I suppose we could do some, have the code flip it when we go to the left. But when we're walking to the right, it's not too bad. Better than a still image. Definitely not the best animation, but that's all it takes to apply it. Just set up a boolean to decide which animation to show, and then whatever conditions we need, and then set the controls to decide whether that boolean when it should be true and when it should be false. Looks a little bit better. So there's the, I guess, next step on the quick start of a 2D game. So now let's do the similar animations for the 3D one, which is exactly the same. We just don't have to import it from somewhere else. We'll create our 3D model in Blender, so we'll be ready to put a skeleton in it, link the skin to the skeleton, and then set up some animations to export. Well, set up some animations, and we don't have to export those because the animations go with our 3D model when we convert that to a BAM file. And that'll make our games look a whole lot better. So I will see you in the next video to do the same thing we just did for 3 dimensions instead of 2.